What position did you retire from, and what was your horticultural specialization?
Well, I'm actually phasing out of retirement. I'm 25% research at Nebraska. That means I'm a research professor. And I phased out of being a teaching research 50-50 position. My specialization, I'm a whole plant physiologist, and with emphasis in mineral nutrition and plant anatomy.
Okay. And what types of classes did you teach?
Well, over time I taught 13 different classes. The most recent ones were graduate level classes in woody plant growth and development and plant nutrition, and those were team taught courses, as well as perennials, annuals, and bedding plant lecture laboratory, and then we had an applied physiology and production lecture, and nursery crop production and management, and the cannabis class, which is undergraduate, graduate, distance, resident, team taught with our hemp breeder.
Yeah. So can you say a little bit more about team teaching? What was the dynamic like for team teaching, and was that kind of a new thing? Because I took your plant nutrition class. That was the first team teaching experience for me as a student.
Well, I think at the graduate level it's important to get experts for the students. I mean, they're graduate students, so I've always taught all my graduate courses with other faculty who have expertise or can lend expertise. And I taught my first distance class. We shared with Kansas State with Dr. Kim Williams, and needless to say, that was a team taught class and it was a distance class.
Yeah.
They need different perspectives and they need the expertise.
Yeah. Very good. What has horticulture meant to your life and career?
Horticulture is the line that has connected all the big deals in my life, starting from when I was a young child. My grandfather, Paparozzi, immigrated from Busso, Italy, and he brought a fig tree with him in his luggage. With limited luggage, he brings a fig tree, which bringing it to New Jersey meant that he had to tar paper it and build a house around it to keep it alive in the winter time. But he also had grapevines. My father made wine from the grapes, so he didn't like wine after. When I was older, he always wondered why he didn't drink wine. My mother did. My grandmother had a rose garden, and that started me into the path. Then in fourth grade, where they were asking, well, what are you going to study when you grow up? What do you grow up? And I said, I'm going to study floristry. And the teacher said, well, I'm not sure that that's a word. So she had me go to the library in the big dictionary, and so I copied down the definition. I handed it to her, and she said, "Oh, you want to be a florist?" And she said, "Something." I said, "Something like that." Yeah, it did. And when I was in high school, as soon as I could work, I got a job at a florist, summers and holidays, which carried me through my undergraduate career at Cook College at Rutgers. And I was set to go on and manage a florist. That's what I was going to do. However, they identify the top 10% of the juniors as Cook Scholars, and to become a Cook Scholar, you had to do research. Well, Mary Loomis Albrecht was a year ahead of me, and I said to her, I said, I don't know, research. I don't know. Oh, well, I'm just finishing this research project, and there's things you could do after that. And so I did that, and I stayed the summer before my senior year. I lived in New Brunswick, and I worked on gibberellic acid effects on branching in English ivy, and then cytokinin effects in branching in pachysandra. And I liked it. wasn't what I thought research was about. So I applied to graduate school, and I got into a couple of graduate schools, and I ended up going to Cornell. And there, my advisors were my fellow graduate students, because our major professor, Harold Tukey Jr., gave us a lot of leeway on what we studied within mineral nutrition, or foliar nutrition, as the case may be. And so basically, it was my colleagues in graduate school who helped me through. I mean, when I was finishing my master's, I wasn't sure I was going to go continue. But there was one particular man that said, hey, you can do this. You can do this. And I'm grateful to them. And then when I was graduating with my PhD, I had a chance again to go back into the industry. But I interviewed at Nebraska, and there were a group of new hires within the last 4 years. And what they wanted to do was start an undergraduate program in horticulture. They didn't have one. And I thought, wow, the chance to build a program, build a graduate program, how often do you get to do that? So I picked up my cat and my aquarium, and I moved 1,400 miles to Nebraska, where, of course, and at that time, you have to understand, I came from a very close Italian family. I was the first woman in my high school to go to agriculture school. Nobody thought about agriculture school, even though they were surrounded by vegetable farms and fruit orchards in upstate New Jersey at the time. And so there I am, picking everything up, a single woman, and going across the country and moving to who knows where. Lincoln was 100 miles, about 100,000 at the time. It was a third of what we are now.
Yeah.
And again, horticulture got me involved with meeting my husband, and had our son, and it's just been that thread that even at cocktail parties, with my husband being a statistician, they ask, well, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a statistician. Oh, I hated that course.
Yeah. Change the subject.
Right. And oh, what do you do? Oh, I work in horticulture, flowers, trees, shrubs, fruit. Oh, well, I have this plant.
Yeah.
And so it saved many an interaction at a social gathering. So it's just been, it's integrated in my life. And my granddaughter, the first foods she would eat were fruits and vegetables. So I'm so proud of her.
That's great. What was the most rewarding part of your career in horticulture?
That's easy. The students. And advising the students, getting undergraduate and graduate students into my lab. When I look back, I realized that I've had graduate students working in my lab from 13 different departments across the university, because we do fundamental things. And at one time I had an atomic absorption spectrophotometer, so I even had some animal science students using that. And that cross-fertilization gets ideas generated. And it's so wonderful to help guide them to select classes, to teach them in class, write letters so they can get scholarships and internships, and hopefully get inducted into Pi Alpha Psi, the Horticulture Honor Society, to get that resume together and then launch them into the job world. And in my situation, for the first 30 years of my career, I always had second timers, what I would call second timers, more mature students who had been working in a box or something like this. I want to be outside, I want to be in a greenhouse. And that was very rewarding to see how they took to that. And they raised the level of the classes a lot, because they were there for a certain reason, and I'm going to make every credit count. So it's great. And being able to work with see my students owning nurseries and as faculty and administrators.
Yeah.
It's what it's about.
Yeah. I agree. All right. How long have you been a member of ASHS, and how has the society influenced your career?
Oh, my first encounter with ASHS was after that Cook Scholar Project. The summer before I went to graduate school, my advisors at the time, Paul Eck, who was the blueberry breeder, and Dr. Bill Schneider, said, "Oh, you need to present this work that you did with the hormones at ASHS." I'm like, "At what?" Okay. So I joined ASHS, and I did an oral presentation, and that has started, and that was 46 years ago. Yeah.
Nice.
And I've been going ever since.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. What advice can you offer to students or young professionals in horticulture?
I've listened to some of the other legends talk, and so I'm going to say maybe something they haven't said, because everything they said is right on, and that is network. Get to know people. Go out of your comfort zone at your university and go to a different department seminar. Meet other faculty that might have common interests. Come to these meetings, particularly ASHS, every year, even if it's on your own dime, or part of your own dime, and present something, anything, do a workshop, do any kind of environment. You get to know people, and you get this cross-fertilization of ideas, and you see what others are doing. The international meetings are also important as you go on in your career. But the best teaching I've ever done, I really think, is when I have colleagues teaching with me, because they keep me on my toes, and I always like to hear how they deliver and see the skills they use. And so I would say, if network, get to know people, it makes the meetings more fun.
Yeah.
And this is the society for horticulture people. It really is. Regional meetings are good. If you're involved in a regional research project, that's excellent. But you're going to need all these connections to parlay, your expertise with others.
Yep. Just had that conversation with my student yesterday. Got to get out of your comfort zone. You
Yes.
got to go introduce yourself to people.
Yes, it is scary, and most of us are most happy in the lab by ourselves,
Yeah.
doing our thing. For me, I was happiest when I was in the electron microscope room in the dark doing my thing. So,
Yep. Well, what excites you most about the future of the horticultural industry and profession?
I think it's the thing that excites me most is it's finally coming out to show what an integrated science we really are. With controlled environment agriculture and urban agriculture, the interface of food science, food safety, which has always been important, but it's really becoming popular press now. And of course, the interaction with medicine and health, human health. And again, these are old topics, and our integrated science and art is involved. But finally, it's becoming visible, and it's becoming important to people. Horticulture is beginning to be a word in their vocabulary, and we need to follow up on that and push that, because they're going to need us just like we need them and the expertise with the challenges that are going to face us in the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you, Dr. Paparozzi. That was
You're
great.
welcome, Dr. Wortman.